I could feel the cursed blade pulse with a hunger only the full moon could awaken. By dawn, the blood I spilled was not just mine. Something else had tasted it, and it was coming for me. Nightbound Bloodline presents 9 cursed artifacts that feed on blood and moonlight. What you are about to hear is not folklore or fiction. These are first-hand accounts from individuals who found themselves bound to objects older than history, cursed to hunger beneath the baleful gaze of the moon. They claim these artifacts breathe, thirst, and thrive on blood. They warned us that the price of ownership isn't just a pact with evil. It is a sentence to a living nightmare. We share these stories so you might understand. In this world, some relics never rest. They wait, patient and hungry. The Witness's Story, Artifact 1, The Blood-Etched Dagger. My name's Marcus, 34, tattoo artist, Idaho born and raised. I want you to know, I didn't come into this a believer. I scoffed at creepy stories, rolled my eyes at old wives' tales. In my world, ink is permanent, scars are stories, and monsters are just metaphors. Until the summer night, I wandered into the Grayson Estate sale and saw the dagger. It was a humid evening, thunder threatening in the distance, cicadas droning outside. The house had seen better days. Ivy crawling up sagging brickwork, front door barely hanging on its hinges. Inside, the air was heavy, sweet with rot and old secrets. I walked past moth-eaten chairs, boxes of dusty books, until my eyes fell on that blade. The blood-etched dagger rested in a velvet-lined case, half hidden beneath a faded velvet cloth. I couldn't help myself. Something about its shape, the strange reddish runes along the blade, drew me in. It felt cold, heavier than it should, and sharp enough to bite through nightmares. I paid cash, wrapped the dagger carefully, and cycled home beneath a sky streaked with red clouds. That night was the first blood moon I'd ever seen. Crimson, full, so close it felt like you could reach up and touch it. My apartment, usually warm and bright, felt off. The moonlight slipped through the blinds, tinging everything raw and violent. Around 2 a.m., I heard whispers, faint at first, but growing sharper, scraping at the edges of sleep. I shrugged it off, blamed the wind, but the whispers were accompanied by a coppery scent, thicker than blood, sharp enough to sting nostrils. When I got up, the dagger was out of its wrapping, laid on my windowsill, bathed in moonlight, pulsing. I approached slowly, heart thumping, the hairs on my arms standing straight. Out the window, something moved. A shadow, not quite wolf, not quite human. Tall, shaggy, red-black fur bristling in the moonlight. Eyes yellow as old bruises, fixed on mine. Its snout was elongated, filled with razor teeth, and its breath fogged up the glass in rhythmic, deliberate intervals. I backed away, tripped over the couch and fell, sweating and breathing hard. The creature's shadow glided along the outside wall, claws scratching wood, testing the boundaries. I pressed myself against the door, praying it wouldn't break through. Outside, the moisture-laden wind shifted, carrying with it the unmistakable musk of wet fur and earth. Animal, ancient, wild. For hours it circled, waiting. The dagger pulsed in my palm, demanding tribute. Dawn finally broke, pale blue and indifferent, and the creature melted into the forest beyond my street. I haven't slept well since. My hands shake when I touch the dagger, and on every blood moon, I feel it wake up, hungry, eager for more. I never went back to the Grayson house. Some nights I swear I hear claws on the roof, pacing, searching for the blade, and for me. The Witness's Story, Artifact 2, The Moonlit Chalice. My name is Sophia Alvarez. I turned 29 this past April. Usually, that means a quiet dinner with friends, a new book, maybe some streaming. This year, it meant inheriting a packed storage locker and an artifact that burned itself into my life. Most people assume historians like me chase mysteries, long to find evidence the supernatural is real. I never did. I'm the sort that orders the same black coffee every morning. Facts, not fantasies. Until the chalice. The moonlit chalice arrived boxed, sealed in blackened oak, the delivery address written in spidery old script. The key tossed loosely on top. I waited until late that Friday night. The moon was peaked, casting a wine-red glow through my apartment window. I remember the clock ticking. Rain pounded outside, drenching the alley below. I broke the seal. The air changed instantly. Static prickled my skin, like the moment before a storm. The chalice itself was heavy for its size, silver gone dark with age, veins of moonstone curling through the cup, and those runes etched deep enough to catch your gaze and not let go. Symbols my education couldn't place, though they stirred some instinct deep inside. When I set it down, the room darkened unnaturally, as if something was siphoning the light. I thought I'd imagined it, until the air filled with a scent like wildflowers gone to rot. Metallic, faintly sweet, alive. Somewhere outside, a dog barked, cut off mid-howl by a sharp yelp. Curiosity is a historian's curse. I poured water into the chalice to examine the inside under the lamp. The moment the liquid touched the stone veins, moonlight shimmered across the metal, sparkling. The water shifted, first pink, then red, slowly thickening, swirling in shadows as if the moon was making it bleed. Then the room grew colder. I pulled my sweater tight, but my skin was already crawling with goosebumps. Shadows crawled up the walls, slender, loping, too fast to watch but too solid to deny. They danced silently, animal shapes, head low, eyes bright with moon madness. My heart pounded, but I couldn't look away. That's when I heard it, a voice so faint it felt like a memory. Drink and remember. I snapped out of my trance and shoved the chalice across the desk, splashing red water over papers. For an instant, the shadows flickered, massed near the ceiling. I swear I saw jaws, rode with tiny teeth, snap open before dissolving into mist. I spent the rest of the night shaking. The stain inside the cup faded by morning, yet the metallic sweetness lingered in my apartment for days. Nights since, I keep the chalice sealed and buried in a drawer. But always, under the next blood moon, it resurfaces. Sometimes on the bedside table, sometimes in the bathroom, reflecting pale red in the mirror. I've suffered fevered dreams lately, wolves circling, old gods feasting under a moon of blood and bone. A chorus of voices chanting in tongues lost to history. The moonlit chalice wants to be fed, demands it, and in the dark hours before dawn, I almost understand why those who owned it before me vanished. The Witness's Story, Artifact 3, The Veil of the Nightborn. I'm Daniel Becker. 42. Night security at the Harlow Heritage Museum in Minnesota. I've got a practical job, practical mind. I've walked empty corridors with nothing but shadows and old bones for company. Never in my life did I imagine a piece of cloth could break me. The Veil of the Nightborn came in from a European estate, donated by a collector who left no name. The archivist joked about vampire rituals and black masses, said it was nothing but fancy lace. I didn't laugh, never did, but I checked every case by routine, never expecting trouble. Cold November evening. The snow outside deadened every sound, thick as eiderdown. My flashlight swept across rows of glass, yellow pools of light swaying, catching dust. The veil hung in its own case, displayed like a thing to be worshipped. Black as midnight, gossamer thin, woven so fine it looked like smoke. Beneath the glass, if you stared long enough, you'd swear the lace was moving, swelling with breath no wind disturbed. I checked the seals as always, glanced away for a second to jot a note, and then, on reflex, reached into my pocket for the case keys. Fingers brushed the veil through a gap, only for an instant. Cold shot up my arm, bone deep, as though I'd dunked it in ice flow. My knees buckled. That's when the whispers started, hissing at first. Then, actual words, my name, echoing in a dozen unfamiliar accents. The whole world contracted to darkness stitched with moonlit threads. I fought for breath, every heartbeat echoing like footsteps at my back. Shapes positioned themselves behind the veil's glass, fluid, angular, wrong. Tall, hunched bodies, white fangs glimmering, eyes reflecting crimson and despair. I was paralyzed, rooted beneath their stares. The air was thick with the stench of old blood and burned herbs. The veil clung to my hand like ice as I tried to pull away. My flesh grew numb, mind filling with images that weren't mine. Ancient corridors flooded with blood, masked figures chanting in moon-shadowed crypts, figures flying faster than thought beneath an eclipsed sky. The hush of velvet and teeth, always teeth. When I jerked free, I stumbled and nearly fell. The veil slithered back into the case, looking innocent, dead as ever. My hand, when I checked it, was marked with black veins fanning out across the skin. I quit my job a week later. Couldn't take the reflection of my face drawn gaunt by sleeplessness, the constant chill tracking my every step. I hear the veil isn't even in the museum anymore. Some nights, I wake to find black lace draped over my window, shadows pacing just outside, waiting for another nightborn to join their covenant. I wish I could forget it, but the veil remembers me, and dreams do not forgive. The Witness's Story, Artifact 4, The Crimson Clock. My name is Anya Ivanov. I'm a clockmaker, 27 years old, working in a narrow shop crowded with memories and machinery. I create order from chaos, measuring time, restoring it. I've handled hundreds of clocks, none ever scared me. But then came the Crimson Clock, and time stopped being simple. Late October, the air was chill and sharp, copper leaves riding in on stiff breezes. An elderly woman brought the clock in, a commission, she said, handed down through generations. She left quickly, clutching her shawl, refusing to meet my gaze. The Crimson Clock was striking, a hulking case of dark mahogany, hands made from what looked like wrought silver, and a pendulum shaped like an old-fashioned vial, filled with a syrupy, dark red liquid. The craftsmanship was exquisite. The casing bore engravings of twisted wolves' heads and moons dancing across endless nights. But the back panel was stuck, something inside resisted. At midnight, I bent close, breath misting as I pried the panel loose. The vial swung, and the liquid inside shimmered as if alive, casting flickering red onto the wall. I reassembled the clock and wound the gears, setting it to run. The first hour, the room felt colder, shadows twisting longer then. Soft ticking turned sharp, driven, relentless, loud, like a heart-beating panic into the silence. I watched the pendulum swing, hypnotic, red light flickering, leaking onto gears, making ghostly shapes on the walls. At 1:30, I saw the eyes. Two slits carved above the clock's face. They blinked open, glistening wet and yellow. My heart dropped. I couldn't move. The air inside the shop thickened, every breath tasting rusty and sweet. Outside the window, a low wind howled, carrying the scent of rain and old fur. Shadows slipped across the floor, wolf-shaped, sinuous, jaws agape, circling. I tried to speak, scream, but only the clock answered, a single chime, too loud, rattling the glass shelves. The pendulum swung faster, the blood inside draining slowly, dark streaks bleeding across the clock's carved fangs. The feeling built, panic, sharp as a knife, my limbs tingling and cold. I tried to stop the clock, but the hands spun wildly, time slipping away. The room twisted, reality bent by the relentless heartbeat of that artifact. When dawn finally crept in, gray and uncertain, the clock fell silent. The vial was empty. My temples throbbed, clothing soaked in sweat. In the mirror behind my workbench, my eyes seemed sharper, my reflection thinner, haunted. I've never wound the Crimson Clock again. In every stray gust of wind, every wolf's howl, I feel it ticking somewhere in the house, counting down the hours till the next blood moon. Even now, time doesn't move right in my shop. Too slow, then too fast. always haunted by the clock's curse. The Witness's Story, Artifact 5, The Fong of Eldritch Moon. My name's Leo Turner. 31, a wildlife photographer. I've trekked more forgotten mountain trails than I can count. My job is patience, lying motionless for hours, watching for the rarest of creatures, camera always ready. I never found miracles or monsters in the woods until I discovered the Fong of Eldritch Moon. It started on a September night, deep in the Sawtooth Range. ID spent the week tracking a pack of wolves said to run wild under the lunar eclipse. The last night, a dense mist rolled in, swallowing sound. I paused on a ridge, breath sharp and clouding, the moon bigger and redder than I'd ever seen. Ahead, splayed in the grass, was a wolf's carcass, larger than any natural beast. Its throat was torn, the fur around the wound blackened, shimmering with dew and blood. Lodged in its jaw was something impossible, an enormous fong, midnight black, run through with veins that pulsed faintly white-blue, as if moonlight lived beneath the surface. Against all common sense, I pried it loose. The second it left the bone, the air dropped 10 degrees, the forest falling dead silent. Not a twig moved. The fong was warm in my hand, impossibly light. Bringing it back to camp, I set the fong on my crate and stared at it for hours. Moonlight caught the veins, making them twitch with something alive. When I finally dozed off, uneasy, that's when the dreams began. I ran with something. Fast, four-legged, skin bristling, mouth full of blood and laughter. Trees flashed past in streaks of dark and silver, and the sky bled light. I woke in cold sweat, my hands covered in dirt, mud caked under my nails. I'd left the tent, a mile from camp, with no memory of how I got there. The fong was beside me, bloody. The days that followed were worse. Every time I touched the fong, I saw things. Spectral wolves prowling just beyond perception. Figures, half human, half wild, howling in agony and ecstasy. Blood rituals under eclipsed moons. Ancient, forbidden, primordial hunger. Worse, I changed. The hunger sharpened in me, a wildness at the edge of my mind. Food lost taste. Sleep became haunted. My friends noticed. Eyes too bright, voice deeper, words slurred in fever nightmares. I began to crave the moon, waiting for it to rise, longing for it to turn the world crimson. The fong is locked in a case at the bottom of my trunk now. I haven't camped alone since. When the blood moon rises, I barricade myself indoors. And even then, the dreams claw at me, running, hunting, always that taste, that ache. The Fong of Eldritch Moon doesn't want to be forgotten. It's waiting for me, and someday, I think, it'll call me back to the wild. The Witness's Story, Artifact 6, The Sanguine Mask. My name is Eliza Quinn, 26 years old, making my way as a costume designer in New Orleans. My apartment is cluttered with silks and brocades, history books, and old photographs. I've always preferred the real to the mystical, but the Sanguine Mask swept realism from my life in a single night. It was an estate sale on Royal Street, a stormy afternoon, thunder breaking the Louisiana heat. I was sifting through trunks for antique fabric when I found it. The Sanguine Mask, nestled in tissue, crafted from pale porcelain veined subtly red. The eyes were jeweled, ruby discs, wet and almost pulsing. The lips, painted scarlet, quirked in a faint sneer. I brought it home, intending to use it as inspiration for a new theater piece. The mask had a weight and chill to it, unnatural in the warm air. I placed it with my other finds, but that night, under a blood moon pouring through grimy windows, I felt an inexplicable compulsion to wear it. I sat before my mirror, hands trembling. The moment the mask touched my face, the world shifted. Sounds muffled, temperature plummeted, my breath fogging before me, heart hammering. My reflection blurred. The mask seemed to fuse to my skin, veins crawling down from my temples, across my cheeks. Seconds stretched to hours, the mask's hunger gnawing at my mind. My vision splintered. I saw flashes of figures, masked dancers swirling in moon-drenched catacombs, their laughter echoing with menace. My own hands, pale and clawed, reached for strangers in the crowd. Fear overtook curiosity. I tried to pry the mask off. The pain was searing, as if fingernails scraping bone. I staggered to the window, desperate, and the night outside vibrated with distant howls and metallic scents. Shadows flitted across cracked plaster, chased by pulsing moonlight. I watched, paralyzed, as wolfish faces flickered in the glass, wide mouths drooling red. Minutes or lifetimes later, the mask finally slid free, falling to the floor with a pitiful hiss. My face stung, thin trails of blood etching my cheeks. For weeks afterward, I woke to see it hovering in odd places. A shelf, the bathroom sink, always hungry for breath or blood. The mask is locked away now, sealed under glass in the attic. But every blood moon, I feel its call, a restless ache under my skin, the scent of old porcelain and deep crimson. There are nights I worry the mask will find me sleeping and finish what it started. The Witness's Story, Artifact 7, The Nocturne Ring. This is Marcus again. I know you heard about the dagger, but the truth is, sometimes darkness circles back. My encounter with the Nocturne Ring started 2 years after the knife incident, when I was searching for answers in all the wrong places. It was gifted to me in a velvet pouch at a midnight meetup with a collector who claimed it belonged to the last living descendant of a secretive blood cult. I scoffed. Old habits die hard. The ring itself was a coil of iron, dark and scorched, with markings that shimmered and shifted, refusing to settle into any meaning I could grasp. I slipped it on, thinking nothing would happen. Instantly, my skin burned with frost and my chest tightened. My apartment, awash in moonlight, darkened until only the glow from the window remained, pouring shadows over everything familiar. That first night the ring took hold, I felt my body slow, pulse thudding dully, vision tunneling. When I looked in the mirror, I saw something wrong. My eyes, rimmed red, flickered with a light I'd never owned. My skin seemed paler, my veins inked blue-black, my nails sharp and unyielding. Sleep was out of the question. The darkness pressed in, and I heard voices, soft mutterings from the corners, scraping laughter carried by wind that shouldn't exist inside four walls. My mouth dried, a hunger rising in me that gnawed at reason. Images crowded my mind. Moonlit woods, bodies shifting between man and beast, claws and fangs soaking red tide. Compulsion drew me outdoors, barefoot, unthinking, through the brush behind my block. I stalked the woods, tracking invisible prey. Branches snapped, the ground breathed beneath my feet, and with every step, the ring grew heavier, searing my hand as if feeding. I hunted that night. Not people, not animals, something older and nameless. I don't remember if I found what I was searching for, only the shame and terror that followed. Now, the ring won't come off. When the moon rises and dims red, the voices return. At work, in stores, I see flickers of the beast who once was man lurking in the pupils of strangers. I bite my tongue until I taste iron. Some nights, I don't trust myself to leave the house. The nocturne ring isn't an ornament. It's a leash for the ancient hunger. Whoever crafted it wasn't hoping to be remembered. They were hoping never to be found. The Witness's Story, Artifact 8, The Whispering Tarot. My name is Lenora Grace. 35, freelance tarot reader, pursuer of hidden truths. I never relied on fate. Always believed the future was a tapestry woven by choice, not chance. That certainty splintered the night a stranger handed me the Whispering Tarot under a sky painted deep red by the blood moon. It wasn't like any deck I'd ever owned. The cards were bone-thin, slick and cold, painted with scenes so vivid I felt their shadows breathing. Symbols shifted as I touched them, moonlight crawling along their edges. hissing in dialects older than my ancestors. The first reading, I felt nothing unusual, but as the moon rose, throbbing through my window, the cards grew clammy, wet with something not quite water, not quite blood. When I laid them out, faint scratching filled the silence, like claws dragging across stone. Then the voices started. They whispered in languages I didn't speak, but their meaning carved itself into my bones. I drew the Moonhowl card, a swirling wolf, saliva dripping from fangs agleam, on 3 consecutive draws, each time paired with a card showing a pale hand clutching an ancient goblet. The deck throbbed with malice, eager to spill its secrets. Sleep abandoned me. Each reading, each shuffle, was a gateway. Visions of bodies dancing in grimoire-lit circles, eyes glowing like moons torn from the night. Every time I tried to lock the cards away, they appeared elsewhere, on my kitchen table, my bed, even under my pillow. I burned sage, drowned the cards in holy water, but the voices persisted. They grew hungrier, more desperate, hissing for blood in exchange for silence. Wolves paced outside my doorstep some nights. Real or phantom, I never dared to look closely. When the blood moon waned, the deck vanished from sight, but not from memory. The whispering tarot changed me. My readings are haunted, my sleep fractured by old moon curses. I don't offer divinations anymore. I warn those who seek me not to ask the deck for answers. Some nights, anxious for solace, I imagine the deck lurking just beyond the veil, hunger undiminished, waiting for the next moon, the next drop of memory or blood. The Witness's Story Artifact 9, The Bloodbound Grimoire. My name is Thomas Guy. I'm 40, a librarian by trade. Not the mystical, mysterious kind, just someone who loves the smell of dust and ink, keeps the records in order, and prefers questions with clear answers. For years, the most excitement I dealt with was a missing index card or a book overdue by half a decade. But that changed the day I unearthed the Bloodbound Grimoire from a hidden compartment in the basement archives. The book was thick, bound in leather flaking and split, stamped with a sigil that made my stomach lurch even as I tried to dismiss it as just another antique. When I lifted the cover, dust spilled out, choking and sweet. The pages were a deep, unnatural red, as if every word had been written with blood rather than ink. At first, nothing happened. I cataloged the grimoire, making a note to send it to a restoration team, but an inexplicable urge compelled me to take it home. That night, the blood moon was a laceration in the sky, leaking crimson over the city. I sat at my apartment desk, flipping pages out of idle curiosity, eyes blurring as strange. Undulating letters crawled across the parchment, spelling words I didn't know but somehow understood. With every line I read, the room seemed to contract, shadows stretching from corners where no shadows should be. The air grew thick with the scent of old copper, the taste of something raw and forbidden on my tongue. My own handwriting changed in my notes, the letters elongated and spiny, foreign. The further I read, the deeper the grimoire burrowed into me. The book whispered at the edges of my hearing, promises, warnings, half-remembered rituals. Night after night, beneath the blood moon's glare, I read those passages aloud, compelled by something I could not name. Dreams became fevered hallucinations, moonlit stones slick with blood, wolves circling ancient altars, hooded figures chanting into the forever dark. Each morning I woke weaker, as if the book leached warmth from my bones. Sometimes, in the mirror, my eyes flashed red for just a second, wolf's eyes, no longer my own. Desperate, I tried to burn the grimoire, but the flames refused it, guttering out as if smothered by an invisible, icy hand. I buried it in the earth, but it returned beside my bed with the next moonrise. There is no ending to my story, only warnings. The bloodbound grimoire is patient. It demands a price in blood and memory, and for every tale I forgot, every lover's name erased from my mind, the moon seems just a little closer, a little hungrier. I still hear its whisper every time the night is red. 9 cursed artifacts. 9 lives torn open by things that shouldn't exist, by objects built not simply to endure centuries, but to feed on them. Blood and moonlight, the oldest currencies, traded in silence, in bargains struck beneath the gaze of a universe indifferent to human hope. Some say these artifacts are relics from a world that's gone. But if you've listened, truly listened, you know they are not gone. They're waiting. In estate sales, in museum vaults, in forgotten drawers and locked rooms that whisper at midnight. Every witness in tonight's story swore theirs was a first-hand account. Some remain anonymous, afraid the relics will find them again. Others are too changed to care, their dreams forever marked by the taste of iron and the press of fur in moonlit silence. It's encounters like these that peel back the curtain for just a moment, showing us the wild, hungry dusk that waits beyond our street lamps and screens. We forget, sometimes, that the night is old and unkind, and that memory is not the only thing that gnaws at us. If you have seen the impossible, if you've held a relic that thrums at the moon's rise, let your story join ours below. Like, subscribe, and submit your truth to the Nightbound Bloodline, where legends are warnings and the past never sleeps. This has been Nightbound Bloodline. Thank you for listening. Until next time, sleep with one eye open. The end.